All right, let's head right to the hotline. Joining us now, Minnesota Vikings General Manager Rick Spielman. Hey, Rick, how you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to get up there in the Dakota area and get on your radio show.
Hey, really appreciate the time today, Rick. I want to start with some of the offseason moves, and then we'll get to the draft. Firstly, talk to us about the decision to move forward without Leslie Frazier and why Mike Zimmer was the right choice at this point moving forward for your franchise.
You know, those are always very difficult decisions, but when we decided to make the change, we went through our head coaching process, very thorough. We ended up interviewing 7 guys with our ownership and myself and George Pate, my assistant GM. And by far, Mike, a lot of great candidates out there, and a lot of the guys that we interviewed I thought were going to be potential head coaches here down the road and relatively shortly. But we felt Mike Zimmer brought what we needed to our football team. He's a disciplinarian. Very passionate, very good football coach. The track record speaks for itself on what he's done through his career as a defensive coach. And I think, you know, after we've hired him and working with him the past couple months, he's been even better than expected. And then he did a great job putting the staff together. And I think one of the key hires was getting Norv Turner in here as our offensive coordinator.
And how did that kind of play itself out? Was that something that was discussed in the hiring process with Zimmer, or was that something that was kind of just formulated after the hire was made? Because everyone we've talked to, analysts, fans, radio hosts there in the Twin Cities, all super excited that Norv Turner's on the staff.
And I've got an opportunity to work with Norv down in Miami when
Okay.
I was down with the Dolphins. And part of the hiring process when you go through this head coaching search is to talk to the head coaches about who their potential staff is going to look like. And I know Coach Zimmer put a lot of time into what he felt he needed, his strengths on the defensive side, and what we needed on the offensive side. And just knowing Norv's history, what he's done with the quarterback position, what he's done as an offensive play caller on game day is, to me, that he's one of the best, if not the best in the league.
Now let's discuss the decision to retain Matt Cassel and not look elsewhere in free agency. Why was that the right decision for this franchise at this point as well?
You know, one of our goals was to make sure we got Matt Cassel back. He did a good job last year. It brought some stability to the position. Him, and then we have Christian Ponder still here. We'll see what happens in the draft, but it doesn't box you in to taking a quarterback at the number 8 spot. We're going to get an opportunity to see our guys in a volunteer minicamp coming up here at the end of the month.
Okay.
And then after our coaches get a chance to work with our current players on our roster, that'll help formulate some of the direction that we do go in the draft.
Rick Spielman, Vikings general manager, joining us on the hotline. You know, we talk about this all the time on my show anyways, and really that's appeasing superstars. And we saw the tweet from Adrian Peterson about his interest in Michael Vick. But I got to ask you this, Rick. Is there ever a time where a general manager should make a move solely to appease his superstar, franchise guy?
I think you have to do what you think is best for the organization. And I know all our players are working extremely hard, and they're all putting in and want to win, just like everybody else in this organization. But as a general manager, you have to look at the big picture and do what you feel is best for the organization to move forward. And I think the players respect that, but we also, you know, respect them, and that just tells you how passionate they are and how much they want to win here as well.
How tough is it as a general manager to kind of separate emotion from the equation when you're making these decisions?
That's the most difficult part of the job. Is
because you guys are all human. I know you guys have high-level executive positions, but one thing I think the fans forget about is that we're all human in this game.
And you build up relationships with the players.
Sure.
You build up relationships with the coaches because you're working with them on a daily basis, and you get to be very good friends with them. But the hardest thing, but the thing that you have to be really disciplined at, is separating the personal relationships with what you feel is best for the organization and how you move forward.
I think that makes a lot of sense to a lot of people after you hear it from the mouth of a general manager. Another glaring difference on this team next year will be the fact that only time Vikings fans will see Jared Allen on their home field is when you guys will be hosting the Bears at TCF Bank Stadium. Was there ever a point where you thought maybe Jared Allen would be in a Vikings uniform in 2014?
The the first and foremost thing is we wanted to get our staff in place. And then once we got our staff in place, then we did a full evaluation of where our roster was. I think when you have a new staff in place, and you can see a lot of our moves that we've done so far in free agency, we're signing younger guys that are going to grow with our organization and be here over the next 3, 4, 5 years. And when you make the change like we have made, we went out and spent some money, but we spent money on players I know that are going to come in here, that are going to be here for the long haul. And that was the objective as we headed into free agency.
Rick Spielman, again, Vikings general manager, joining us on the hotline, Monday edition of Overtime, ESPN 99.1. Certainly defense a concern, considering the lack of production at times a year ago. How comfortable are you that area of your team will be much improved this year, considering what you've done in free agency and, of course, the draft coming up?
Yeah, we feel very confident that we will be better on defense. I know that, again, is Coach Zimmer's specialty.
Right.
Everywhere he's been, he's had great defenses, has been very successful in that area. And one of the things we did is when he first got in here is he sat down with all my scouts, with my directors, and we sat there and went through what are you specifically looking for at each position? What are the traits and how are they going to be utilized in the system that we're going to run? So we were very detailed on what we were looking for and the traits that we were looking for him to run the defense that he's been so successful at.
All right, I couldn't let you go without talking about the draft for a second. Mike Zimmer had some very interesting comments about Johnny Manziel over the last month or so. From your evaluations and interactions, what is your take on Johnny Manziel, the NFL QB? I had to get it in there.
I know. You want to come up and you can sit in our draft meetings next week. We can get you all the insight on it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave. I know we've done extensive research on everybody, the quarterbacks, but a lot of players in this draft. We're getting ready to have what we call our top 30. We're going to have about 30-some players coming through our building this week. We're still doing and finalizing the touches on each guy just to make sure we have a full understanding of not only we have a pretty good understanding of what they can do on the field, but what are they going to be like when they come in our building, what are they going to be like off the field. And by the time we get to the draft and we get on that clock, that we'll be ready to go, feel very comfortable about whoever we select.
Now I got to ask you about that number 8 selection then, because I wonder how many contingency plans do you guys have in regards to what could happen in front of you that could eventually, affect that selection there at number 8? Is that something where you guys have multiple players where you're looking at depending on who goes in front?
Oh, I've never gone into a draft where we didn't have multiple ways to go.
Okay.
And it's every year, it's different. We go in our preparation, we go through our draft meetings, we go through a gazillion scenarios. I can't tell you. It's like everybody's tired of hearing me talk about scenarios.
I'm sure.
By the time the draft's done, but there are no surprises on draft day. And I think especially over the last 2 years since I became general manager that we've been very aggressive about moving up and back, trying to get the right players here to give us the best chance to be successful.
All right, Rick, I've had your brother Chris on my show many times, so we can check off another Spielman off my list, okay?
Boy, how was he, okay?
He was very good, and he only had good things to say about your personnel decisions up there in Minnesota. All right?
Well, I appreciate that.
Hey, really appreciate the time today, Rick. Best of luck with the draft as well.
Okay, thanks for having me on.
Anytime. Take care.